Welcome to the Fine Print, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Caleb Teskey, and today I have a special interview with Nick Smith from Emerald Visions in Alberg, Vermont. Nick, thank you for joining me, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, now I want to brag a little because you are my first official licensee in this state of Vermont, and I've been dying to have you on here. It's been a long time coming.
I'm glad to finally get to talk to you on video.
Oh yeah.
We've been talking back and forth for like the past 3 months now, I think.
It's been more like 5.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing a 5-minute life story with us?
Yeah, definitely. I grew up in St. Albans, Vermont until I was about 16 and moved to Bakersfield, Vermont. I was there until about 19, then moved to California for college, where I went to Humboldt State University out in the Emerald Triangle. And I kind of really got into growing out there and spent about 6 years out in Northern California. During my time there, I got a little trouble. I was arrested for possession of cannabis, or marijuana they called it at the time, for sales, and I spent 3 months in jail for that. And so I guess that's why I'm a social equity applicant, and it's really just getting busted for that sets you back a lot in every aspect of your life. They really make you a second-class citizen.
What kind of trouble did you get for that?
Well, originally when I got pulled over, it was 3 felonies. They gave me for some reason they separated it to possession first, or felony possession, felony transportation, felony sales. But then after all the court dates, they lumped it all to just possession for sales. And yeah, that was down in San Diego. I got busted.
Damn.
So yeah, all the court dates I had to go to were about 700 miles away from where I lived.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Wow. They can't just reschedule you for a different jurisdiction?
No, that would have been my best interest, and they didn't want that because Humboldt would have just thrown it right out. It was not, they called it a large amount, but it was nothing compared to everyone else I knew up in Northern California.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so they wanted to make an example of me down in San Diego. So I was sentenced to 6 months in jail, and I ended up getting out in 3. And then, so after that, I ended up on probation. So it's super hard to even find a house. So when I finally was off probation, I moved back to Vermont and just got a shitty job at Smuggler's Notch because it was one of the few places that would hire a felon.
Yeah, can confirm.
I worked there for like 5 years, had a pretty fun job, but the pay was terrible. But there's a trade-off in life. Luckily with cannabis, you get both a fun job and it pays pretty decent most of the time. Hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers. But the bottom line is it's what I want to do. It's what many of us want to do.
Now, we talked about this at quite some length. Could you tell us a little bit about the environment out in California and what's going on with their cannabis industry?
Yeah, it's been legal, well, medically since the early 2000s. I was actually a medical patient out there, and up in Northern California in Humboldt, the limit was 99 plants per patient. So I did a craft cannabis cooperative with 2 other people. So we had 297 plants in this barn that we set up to grow out there. And that was 100% legal. That was like my first time dabbling in large amounts of cannabis, growing it legally. And so now it's been legal for a while, but there's a lot of people I know out there that don't want to go into the legal market because it's hard to, they've made it very unattainable for the average person. I'm not sure the prices or the regulations. I believe it's just the price to actually go legal is just crazy. And the price for cannabis out there is just bottoming out. It's a race to the bottom.
Yeah, what you said about $500 a pound for like really quality herb?
Yeah, that's what my friends are saying that they can get it for. They're faced with having to get rid of it for.
Now in Vermont, do you think that's going to be sustainable, that kind of price for Vermont growers?
Well, that won't be the price here because that's with all of the like outdoor and the light depth, and that's on the black market. The legal market's much higher. I believe that
Okay.
maybe for like really high quality indoor, some of the best is probably still fetching top dollar of over right 200 an ounce at least.
Okay, that sounds more sustainable,
Yeah,
for
I
a
think it's a
grower
whole
anyway.
nother thing. As long as interstate sales don't open up, Vermonters will be fine. And when they do, hopefully we have enough head start that we can try to have a fighting chance. That's the one of the scariest things is trying to compete, or the reality that eventually we'll have to be in a nationwide market where everyone else has had all this head start that we haven't had because our
Now,
states drag their feet on it.
now you actually worked for one of the dispensaries here in Vermont, isn't that correct?
Yeah, I worked for Champlain Valley Dispensary. A few years after I left Smuggler's Notch, it was not really the top candidate or top choice that I would have liked to work for in the medical industry, but it was the only one in my area that I could really grow more legally up here. And I don't know, learn from their mistakes was kind of why I went there.
What kind of mistakes were you seeing when you entered your job there?
Um, there was a lot of, let's see, trying to figure out how to put it. There were choices they made that don't align with most of our ethics in terms of what should make it to market. I probably can't go too much further because of the NDA,
Sure.
but
And I mean,
I
this
think,
is certainly something I've heard from a number of other people with just some of the quality control issues coming out of some of these medical dispensaries in Vermont.
yeah, they definitely, I believe, were more concerned about profit over quality and the patients. I've heard from people that they charge like 380 an ounce for medical patients at um, everyone knows the quality they've been hearing about, and then the
That's
choices of all the genetics that they have are pretty limited and old and just kind of never really that great in the first place.
so. And you were sort of called in to help them remediate some of those issues. I assume because you have a skill set that's somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, initially I interviewed there for the head cultivator position. Kind of seemed like they just had that posted just because they had someone in mind that they wanted to give the job to, and it was kind of a formality, I'm guessing, because I interviewed and it went really well, but then I got a call back saying that they filled from within. And then they said that if I was interested in the future, if I'd be wanting to come on as like a cultivator too, and I don't know, it was better than working for where I was at the time. So I got a call back and took the cultivator 2 position. I worked that for a while, several months, I think 4 or 6 months, and then I was promoted to the head grower cultivation supervisor, I guess was my title.
Hmm.
And then just tried to get anything, I don't know, like little changes done that I think and many of us would think of as just industry standard. I met resistance, but then we did get some things changed, but not as much as I would have liked. And
Now, when you're faced with a problem like that, how do you start diagnosing it and troubleshooting it?
the problems I saw there were just obvious from the moment I walked in. Um, Pretty much just scrap everything and restart was my idea. It was, yeah, that's what I wanted to do at least.
And that's not the route that was taken.
No, not the route that was taken.
And
But
is there other
over,
ways to remediate problems that don't involve scrapping your entire crop?
there's some that you can do that some cultivators do that aren't very ethical, like spraying stuff late in flower with product like xeritol, something that I wouldn't do personally, but that is something that large growers do. There's all sorts of things that growers do in the commercial side that hopefully no one does in Vermont for the craft cannabis scene.
Now, xeritol, is that one of these products like Myox?
It's like a hydrogen peroxide with an acid in it, so it could be.
Okay, it
But
sounds similar.
yeah, the stuff
No,
smells super weird. It's like almost vinegary. It's nothing that you want to smell.
hmm.
But you really shouldn't be spraying anything past week 3 of flower, and that's not always the case with bigger growers.
It seems like when you grow on a scale that large, or do any sort of business really on a scale that large, that the quality suffers.
Yeah, definitely. And it can even suffer if like it's not even that big and you just have bad practices. But yeah, I mean, when you start kind of putting profit over quality and try to pack in as many plants into smaller rooms as possible, you really suffer with airflow and pathogens. And there's nothing that substitutes for just a well laid out room and good IPM control from the start. And that way you don't have to worry about that later in flower.
Oh, and I forgot to ask you, what license were you approved for?
Oh, tier 1 cultivator.
So 1,000 square foot indoor,
Yep,
outdoor?
1,000 square foot canopy.
Cool.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of questions about that, how you measure the difference between like flowering canopy or square footage. Do you have any thoughts on that issue?
I've been thinking about that lately, because the conundrum I'm in with my understanding of what they consider to be canopy could really lead to some practices that aren't going to be good. Like, so 1,000 square feet of canopy should really just be where the plants are. So if you have a 4 foot by 4 foot table, flood table, that's 16 square feet of canopy. But if that 4 by 4 table's in a 20 foot by 10 foot room, that's 200 square feet of room. So if they consider that 200 square feet canopy, even though you only have 16 square foot used, then it's going to lead some people to even push the limits. Like if it's the room size, not like cubic feet, square feet, there's no reason you can't go 10 stories high. So they may have made a loophole in there for people trying to be hard asses, but potentially made it so, I'm sorry, the cannabis control board aren't being hard asses, but they may have just missed something that could really be an oversight. If they're going that the canopy isn't like the industry standard for
Right,
canopy.
if you stack it up, it's still the same square footage.
Same square footage of the room. So you could literally have like a skyscraper and you just have to have a forklift. So that could be something that they may run into where like, yeah, they may have tried to really limit the square footage size, but they really push people to grow vertical, which I don't like doing because what's on the top levels of vertical growing never gets as much attention as if it's just one level laid out properly, because you have to get on a ladder. And I don't know, it's like when you're cleaning your house, whatever is like under your couch, it's hard to get to, so you're never going to clean it. So those hard areas to get, if you have plants up against walls, you're going to end up with problems, or just like really hard to reach.
Would you mind sharing some of your cultivation methods with us, or some things that you favor?
Yeah, I've grown most different ways, from aeroponic, hydroponic, soil, organic soil or organic nutrients only, salt-based newts. I've come to favor just drip irrigation with small pots. I'm using 1 gallon pots with drip emitters with a dosatron system on flood tables. So other than just watering once a day, I let my soil get down to about a 40% moisture content by the morning. And then I start watering every 20 minutes for 17-second shots. And it's every 20 minutes, 17 seconds with drip emitters. So everything's evenly watered, and yeah, you can kind of push the plant to produce a lot of really heavy frosty buds.
What's a dosatron?
Dosatron's a nutrient delivery system. So you put it in line with your water line, and the tube goes from a dosatron down into a container of mixed nutrients that are concentrated. And the dosatron has settings on it that will adjust the dilution to your specifications. So one thing that I really like about dosatron and just drip irrigation over just hand watering and with soil is that with a dosatron, I can reset my root system on the fly. So if I don't like what I'm seeing, if something's out of whack, I can change the whole root zone in hours, as opposed to if it was, say, like no-till organic. That usually goes pretty well, but if there's a problem, you have what you have. It's in there. And also one reason that I choose not to go no-till organic is just that if you end up with bugs and stuff and any kind of pests, the whole thing's contaminated. And I think it works really well for some people. There's some experts at it that really knock it out of the park, but it's not for me. currently. I'm not saying that I won't look back on this in a year or two and be shamed that I grow the way I do. Very possible.
I want to break this down a little bit because this is something you touched on as using these salt-based nutrients versus the organic. Can you talk a little bit about like the advantages of using a salt-based nutrients and the advantages of using like a no-till soil?
Yeah, I'm not an expert completely at it, but from my perspective, I think that salt-based nutrients with drip emitters and cocoa, you can get the consistency every time, where all my tests hopefully will be spot on or pretty close to the last one. So if I get a product and percentages that I really like and customers like, I can replicate that. With a properly flushed salt-based drip irrigation system, you can really just flush it all out of the system. I don't know too many people. I know there's some that will say that they can tell the difference night and day, but I can't really tell the difference between a really well flushed salt base bud over no-till. I will say that like organics can taste better sometimes, supposedly. I don't know. But also, there's certain, I don't want to say hype words behind organic, but some people flock to it just because of the word, and maybe all these people that are wanting the organic bud, they don't even realize that their other things they consume are not organic whatsoever. Like, are they out there smoking Marlboros and eating McDonald's? If that's the case, then what do you care if it's organic?
That's a great point.
Organic and clean are two totally different things, in my opinion. Where like, if you spray neem oil late in flower, that's organic, but that's not good for you to smoke ever. So
why not?
Organic just, it's bad for your lungs, bad for your health. Yeah. So realistically, if you're growing salt-based drip irrigation, just like have good operations, good SOPs, and don't spray anything and then flush properly, it'll be a clean product. If it tests clean, then the proof is in the test.
And this is another discussion I've had with some people about flushing versus not flushing. Why do people flush, and is there any benefit to not doing it?
There's at least the benefit of flushing. You'll save money on nutrients. That's just a fact that you'll save money. Near the last couple of weeks of flower, you can back down on nutrients down to nothing. So the plants aren't consuming as much, and you want them to start cannibalizing themselves a little bit near the end. But I don't know, the verdict's out on flushing. I choose to flush for 1 to 2 weeks. It's 1 week of solid flush and then another week of it tapering down to very low EC, which is it's basically salt content.
And
I don't really understand with the organic how you can properly flush everything out. I get that maybe since it's organic, it doesn't matter, but it's still in there.
And I've heard another side of this argument where they said, no, we don't want to starve it at the end. We want to like give it like which seemed like the counter argument to what you were saying.
Yeah. I'm sure it's probably relatively okay as long as they give it some sort of a flush, possibly like at least 3 days. But I don't know, if you look online, all the different sites and different experts will say different things for flushing. Some say flush is completely not necessary. Others say, I've even read extreme ones saying you need to do a 3-week flush, which I think is way extreme. But part of the idea is it will help the flavor and it'll help it burn cleaner. Like you'll get more white ash as opposed to black ash. You
mentioned the color of the ash, which was something I've never heard anyone say before.
Yeah, it's one way people judge if they don't know what the grower did for practices. They say that they can tell if it was flushed properly by the ash color. If it's white or light gray ash, then supposedly it's flushed well.
I'm gonna have to do a trial on that.
Yeah, you might not want to try anything that's super not flush, but that's worth trying, I guess.
Another thing we've talked a good bit about is water consumption and water management, water usage. How do you manage your water at your facility?
Well, I do the drip irrigation when I water, I don't get any runoff till the end of the day. It's about 5-10% runoff, and I calculated the whole facility running will be about 37 gallons of runoff over the course of every day. And in the future, I want to do a wastewater reclamation system. For now, my water goes to municipal wastewater treatment. And then it's also getting diluted with the river or distilled water from my dehumidifiers and the condensate from my air conditioners.
Now, do you have to run this by the town and get all this kind of wastewater stuff approved through any of like the local municipalities and things like that?
Yeah, if you're a cultivator growing not in your home residence, you have to go through, basically, you have to talk to the town, ask what your capacity is. Mine's 450 gallons of wastewater per day, which I'm nowhere near it with my 37 gallons of water and additional 150 of distilled water. So that's 187 gallons of wastewater a day that I have, with 150 being basically just reverse osmosis in a way. But if you're growing at home, the Cannabis Control Board's regulations are much lighter, and you don't have to get any kind of permitting if you have a septic system.
Oh.
Yeah, as far as I know, I could be completely wrong on that one. But yeah, it was kind of a curveball near the end of my licensing. I was waiting on my license, and I was told by the town that they were unsure of their ability to treat my water. So I had to go through the Department of Wastewater Management. I had to hire a civil engineer who
for 37 gallons a day.
Yeah, just because I believe that there was someone in my town who was probably just a prohibitionist. They were kind of in my way every step of the way. They're on the select board.
That seems like overkill. It seems like a lot of other people are using a lot more resources, kind of with a rubber stamp.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, there's all sorts of other industries that have much more wastewater. I don't know, it's different because nitrogen and phosphorus is relatively high in cannabis runoff water. But I mean, if you had a ceramic studio, there's runoff water they wouldn't have cared about. A brewery, they would have welcomed me with open arms and celebrated it. There's just tons of other industries that have wastewater that's a problem, but since this is cannabis, it seems like everything's turned into an issue.
Semiconductors, computer chip manufacturers.
Yeah, exactly. I believe that they probably have their own on-site wastewater treatment facility. Same with like Cabot or something. But yeah, there's a lot of other industries that no one cares about their wastewater, or like actual agriculture or actual dairy farmers. They'll spread manure right by the lake. I live in Alberg, so I drive by the lake, and 10 feet to my left is a field that reeks of manure, and 15 feet to my right is the lake. And because that's actual ag, and they're designated agriculture and we're designated manufacturing, we are an issue, or they put us under closer scrutiny when, I don't know.
Well, the majority of that runoff is caused by agriculture, without question. I've looked at those numbers from the state, and I hate to say that because I have a lot of friends who are farmers, and they're fucking great guys. They work their asses off, but this is where all these toxic algae blooms come from. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, over 50% of the phosphorus in our lake, or the runoff, comes from, I believe it comes from dairy farms. And then another, I'd say 20 or 30% is from municipalities, specifically for mass overflow events. Like after a big storm, they just release untreated waste into the lake. It'd be nice if maybe they were asked to comply over time, give them 20 years to increase their capacity, what they could treat. Then that would knock off 20% or so off of the phosphorus in our lake. And in no way,
I feel like I read that story every year. There's a story, the Winooski sewage treatment plant accidentally released 1 million gallons of partially treated wastewater.
That's not an exaggeration either. I've heard that every single year. Yeah, and I'm not trying to make any hurdles for dairy farmers at all. I'm just saying that it's kind of it's a bit ridiculous, the scrutiny that they put cannabis growers under. A lot of it's probably just fearing that it'll make a bad situation worse. And I agree that, I don't know, I guess it's good that we went through everything we did, and hopefully everyone's rest assured that the 37 gallons that I'll be releasing isn't that big of a deal.
Now, if you go with an organic no-till sort of setup, is there any of those nutrients in that runoff water?
There wouldn't be runoff water in the organic no-till, as far as I know. So that's
like a closed benefit.
As far as I know, there's a lot of them have big raised beds, whether it's indoor or outdoor, that you only water it like once or twice a day or something. And the methods for growing organic no-till are much different. And yeah, it's better for the environment, but if you're on a municipal wastewater treatment facility system, they should be able to handle a small amount. And the goal is for me and probably many others to eventually have a zero waste system where there's a system I'm looking into currently. It's about $18,000 to $28,000 for a wastewater reclamation system that it would capture all of my runoff water, treat it, and then put it back into a storage tank. Then I'd just have a pump that pressurized my system again, and I'll use it. So until I make,
is that something Efficiency Vermont might help you out with?
That's a good question. They might, and maybe the Cannabis Control Board will incentivize it some way and as well.
Now you said you worked with them a little bit. Is that correct? Efficiency Vermont?
Yeah, I think I got about $10,000 in rebates for my grow lights. It's between 8 and 10 so far.
So what kind of services do they offer? Sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. Well, they offer services for residential and businesses. So I mean, if it can even be as little as like yourself, if you're to buy a dehumidifier, an air conditioner, a pellet stove, I'm sure solar panels, energy efficient, anything. You throw Energy Star on it, check their website, and you can probably get a rebate on it. When it comes to a business like mine, I had to speak with a representative, and they do a catered plan for you where they'll work with you, you tell them what you want to use, they'll figure out how much electricity you'll save over the course of a year and how long it takes to pay off that equipment. And they'll give you a certain percentage back on the cost of those products like LED grow lights, mini split air conditioners, energy efficient dehumidifiers. Those are the three that I got the rebates for. But now that you mention it, would be good to look into, see if they could offer a rebate or something on a wastewater reclamation system.
I mean, it seems like it fits in with the state's goal of sort of moving towards a more environmentally friendly business, atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely. I love that'd be amazing. I'll keep an eye out and I'll let you know.
Yeah, maybe I just saved you some money, buddy.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too, because we talked about one of the things we talked about was the recycling of the packaging. And we could talk more about packaging if you want, but the one thing we discussed was having to use solvents to sterilize your package. If you're going to use like a glass jar, you have to use a solvent. And you said something like that might actually disturb your wastewater permitting. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how else you'd clean out resin and any kind of any terpenes out of a jar without some sort of a solvent like alcohol, 99% alcohol. And I don't know, or whatever else they would say I'd have to use, but yeah, their whole goal is with their reusable packaging is to minimize waste in the system. So if they make us use like reusable packages and like in order to sterilize them, I don't see how it would not have any kind of a bad waste product.
And that's going to be a lot of packages.
Yeah.
Think about all of the pre-rolls alone. Like, how many fucking millions of pre-rolls are we going to bang through, And every one of those is a little glass jar, like.
Yeah. Well, realistically, what I would have to do with that alcohol, if I end up with jars that I have to sterilize, is you would collect it after and then dispose of it at a hazardous waste site. That would be how you should do it. So I guess if I did it that way.
Can you reclaim alcohol and like reuse that, like filter it and then use it to sterilize again?
You probably use a short path distillation setup with like something like that to reclaim it. But then, well, also having the alcohol to sanitize jars, a large amount of it would affect my my situation with the fire marshal. They'd have to be aware of it, and also my insurance company.
Because that's flammable.
Yeah, exactly. So everything will have to be stored properly. Part of getting the cultivation permit with a fire marshal for the certificate of occupancy, they made me get a flammable, one of those yellow cabinets for any flammable thing I have. And even my sterilizing wipes that have alcohol in them, they make me keep those in it. So the more you have, the bigger one of these cabinets you need. Mine's about 2 feet by 2 feet. It's really just a cube. And the thing costs a couple $100. So if you need even more alcohol, you need a giant cabinet. It's going to run like thousands of dollars.
Huh. But what if you just wanted to have a bottle of 151 on the counter? Is that okay?
That would have to be in the flammable liquid. My bottle of Whistle Pig is even stored in my flammable liquids cabinet.
Wow.
The celebratory Whistle Pig I bought for the day I got licensed.
Yeah. How'd that taste, buddy?
It was really good. It wasn't the Boss Pig, but it was their, I think it was 12 or 13 year age. It's very nice.
Now, when we first talked, you said you were approved, but you didn't actually get like a physical copy of your license. Where are you at on that?
So it was about a week after I got approved during that meeting that I heard nothing the day that I was approved at the Cannabis Control Board meeting. I was kind of expecting some sort of an email saying, hey, congratulations, don't grow yet. You know, you're not clear yet. You need to wait until you have the license. But there was nothing. And I actually like had to make a bunch of phone calls. I talked to Kyle Harris, who was really nice and helpful. Basically, once you get approved, you still have to wait. It was 6 days until I got an email that said that basically I had to pay this $100 local fee, which no one was ever been told of either. It's not a big deal. It's $100, but that's another little thing that people should be aware of. There's a $100 local fee that you have to pay whether or not you're a social equity applicant or not. And so my status on the Cannabis Control Board website, the Vermont Force, was it still said pending board approval even 6 days after it was approved. Luckily, this one employee from Cannabis Control Board reached out to me and helped me a lot, pushed it along the way. There have been several members of the Cannabis Control Board I've spoken with that have been very helpful. They're good people. They're worked to the limit and they don't have that much help yet.
Yeah, it seems like they were really hamstrung here. Like, they're like, here's 600 applications and you have like 5 people. Good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't want to have that fucking job.
Yeah, I think Alexis is the one looking at most of the applications. She was awesome.
I haven't spoken with her at all.
Yeah, she's a real professional. She's awesome.
Word. Well, Nick, I'm gonna cut this up. Can we do another chunk?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm gonna cut this up. Take 5 minutes. We'll come right back, and we're gonna dig into this other 16 pages of notes that I have.
Sounds good. I look
All
forward
right.
to it.